Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Multiverse Show, Season 5, Episode 27, the greatest show on Mondays for as long as it'll last. Thank you guys for tuning in. We have a pretty good show lined up for you guys. First off, we are stalling for time for our good friend James Wilson, or James Whaling Wilson, if you will, to come over from his job and grace us with his presence this evening. We also have our illustrious White Wolf himself, Sam Hain Tolbert, joining us this evening. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing good. I am feeling the spooks. I was feeling it already going into October, but now I'm really feeling it, man. I got Halloween on the brain. Instead of brain, there is pumpkin right now. So that's good. It's fun. It's a nice time of year. Just trying to, in my spare time, browse through tons of horror and seeing what I need to read, what I need to watch, what I need to play, that sort of thing. So all good fun.
All right, and we also have the Donna Deletion himself, the Gabagool, Mr. Mike Peter Truth.
I love it. What's going on, everybody? It's Mike. Thank you for tuning in for another great episode of the Multiverse Show. Feels great to be back on, chopping it up with the bros. So let's get it started.
All right. So first off, we're gonna ask our question to kind of catch up on things. What have you guys been playing? We're about to hit like heavy Xbox season, but this is some games that come out all across the board. What's been occupying your time so far? Mike, let's start with you because it's been a while since you've been on the show.
Yeah, so I've been playing a little bit of Black Ops Cold War, getting back into then again. They have the haunting event going on. Been playing some of that new Scream deathmatch mode, which is actually pretty fun. So I've been playing some of that. Other than that, had a chance to check out some of these betas that have been coming out. So Call of Duty Vanguard, Battlefield 2042, and Halo Infinite, which we'll be getting into later. Had some fun with that. But other than that, I've been playing Far Cry 6. I did end up picking that up, and I'm having some fun with it. I mean, it's a Far Cry game. I do like the world and the characters in this one better than I did Far Cry 5. It's a video game, and I mean that in the best possible way. If you've played Far Cry games recently, you know exactly what that means. It's kind of like goofy, silly fun, but I do like the story, like the characters in the setting. So yeah, I've been having some fun with that.
Oh yeah, cool. What about you, Nick? Or is that not Nick? I'm so sorry. I looked at Nick popped up on my on my Twitter feed. Oh no, Jez. Not Jez. Damn it. Jez is the one that tweeted it.
You done? You finished? You got the right
I don't
one
know.
yet?
James, what do you think? No. Sam.
All right, enough. Yeah, so it's actually been a really busy season for me. I'm preparing for the Black Friday rush and the holiday games news rush, so I haven't had as much time as I would have liked to play stuff recently. That said, I did get to try out Back 4 Blood, and I've put a few hours into that over the recent weekend. I really like it. It's a lot of fun. It's the epitome of one of those games that I'm not sure I would have tried if it wasn't in Game Pass. Like, would I have spent $60 on this? Honestly, I'm not sure about that. I'm really not. However, being in Game Pass, I downloaded it, tried it out, played a few hours with Nick. No game has really scratched that Left 4 Dead itch ever since Left 4 Dead. You know, so many games have tried, but frankly, a lot of them just haven't done a good job. This is probably the closest any game has come to scratching that itch. The matches are very fast-paced. It's like, 8 to 10 minutes around at most, sometimes even quicker. It's very, very rapid. You can make a lot of progress quickly. The gameplay feels fun. Special infected show up rapidly. Back 4 Blood is really fun. If you have Game Pass, definitely give it a whirl.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, dude. Like I've been playing Left 4 Dead for years, and so seeing Back 4 Blood come back, dude, I am just so pumped. I just it's fun. Here's the problem. So I went back and I played it through Act 1 of Back 4 Blood, and then I went to try and play Left 4 Dead 2. I can't. I can't do it. It's just not. It's one of those situations where the gameplay is just so much better in Back 4 Blood, you can't go backwards now. And like not even for nostalgia purposes, like it just doesn't can't do it. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like, okay, going and playing like Fallout 4 and then going back to play like Fallout 3. You just can't. Like if you're maybe nostalgia might be able to pull you through, but without the nostalgia factor, you have to admit it is so much better than the original mechanically. It's so hard to go back. Um, I've had a blast with it. I've been going through with like every configuration of people, and just like playing with different decks and trying all this stuff out. It is just so much fun. I've had a total blast with it. Other than that, I've been playing Fallout 76 and doing the Halloween events. Um, Far Cry 6 as well. Um, Finished Avengers from on Game Pass. I finally
Thoughts?
finished the last little achievement of Psychonauts 2 that I was missing.
Oh,
So
nice, nice.
yeah. I thought Avengers was okay. I think at that point that you mentioned, Sam, where it's like, hey, like you're gonna play it and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, this is actually really good, and then you're gonna hit this point where it's like, what did they do?
I told you. I warned you
Yep,
that was coming.
it,
It.
dead on. You were right. Where it's just like, wow, we just kind of like either forgot what we were doing or just completely went somewhere else with this. Like just it's just so weird. Like playing that was has been a very interesting time. So say that much. Other than that, we've dabbled around going back to like Jackbox games and stuff, doing things like that on occasion. But the game that's actually got my attention right now is Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. Have you two played this at all?
I have not.
It is so dumb, but it's so much fun. Sam, did you play this at all?
No, I did not. I did
All right,
not.
it is on Game Pass, so it's not going to cost you anything. Um,
Okay.
so what it is, it's a very basic red versus blue. You play as the red team, and they normally have like, all right, here's a couple enemies on the blue team. Um, and they have like different eras, and it's like different types of units, but there's no like hard set classes per se. Like, oh, these are armored units, or oh, these are ranged units. There's nothing like firm about that, but it's just crazy things to watch, like watching a pirate queen fight a mammoth, or um, watching like musketeers try to take down a legion of like hoplites. Uh, um, just like watching the Grim Reaper fight Zeus. Like just the weirdest stuff, but it is so much fun. I just strongly urge you guys to like try it at some point. It is so funny. But it's there's some challenge to it. Like you got to figure out like the right placement of enemy types and stuff. Like it's not like super hard, but like all right, maybe putting this type of guy up front is not a good idea. Maybe put him back like for the spacing of it. Like, it's little things like that, and it's fun. It's definitely like one of those games where I would say like if you're like doing cloud streaming because it doesn't really rely on any latency issues. Because it's just by placing it down and that's it. I say try it on there. It's a lot of fun.
Okay. Gotcha. And
Yeah.
what did you say the
Yeah.
name was again?
The short version is Tabs, but it's Totally Accurate Battle Simulator.
Oh, I have heard of this. Okay, I missed the
It's
name at
really
first.
good.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I've heard of this. I have heard of this. I will download it.
Yeah, it's really fun, and like it's fun to like play in a room with people because you can say, all right, like the challenge we were doing a couple days ago, we were like, all right, someone pick the type. So they're like, all right, well, we're gonna pick Renaissance period, and so that's the army that you choose. It's like, all right, now we have to figure out how to win with this particular type of unit, with like painters and just random stuff. It's really funny. It's a lot of fun to play with a group of people, even if not everyone's technically playing. So, yeah, good
Gotcha.
stuff. All right. So the big question. Today we finally got the re-reveal for the Halo Infinite campaign dropping this December. So, um, I want to check up with Mike first because it's been a little while, and you're the token curmudgeon of the group. We need to know what you think about Halo first, and then tell you what you think about the campaign.
Okay, so full disclosure, I am replaying the Halo campaign on Master Chief Collection leading up to the release of Infinite. The one game that I have not played out of that collection as far as the campaign so far is Halo 3. I played the campaign for 4 at a friend's house back when that came out. Played 5, played 1, played 2. I'm working on 3. Overall, I do like the Halo series. I like the lore that they built up in the series. Like I said, 3 notwithstanding, I can't speak on that one. But the thing that's nice about Halo that I enjoy is from the gameplay aspect. It's kind of like one of those games where like you're encouraged to see how you could like experiment and break the game. They kind of like throw you into a sandbox. And previous Halo games were more linear, and this has a larger sandbox type of feel. It seems so far with Infinite. Basically, how Infinite looks to me, it kind of looks like Far Cry with Halo mechanics. Is the best way that I could possibly describe it with the way that they're setting up the open world. I think it looks good. Graphically, it didn't blow me away. I think a lot of that has to do with the art style that they chose. But the gameplay just looks super fun. Like, especially all of the mechanics surrounding the grappling hook. I think it looks great. It looks way better than it did last year, I should say. I am more looking forward to the multiplayer component than I am the single player campaign. But at the same time, I am definitely going to be playing this. And I think it's going to turn out to be good. I think it's going to turn out to be a really solid addition to the series, especially after Halo 5, which was disappointing, the campaign, in my opinion. I think this is what Halo needs at this point. And I think it's going to do the series justice as far as I'm concerned.
All right, got it. All right, so just to kind of rephrase it. So when you saw the campaign, what was the major standout for you this time around?
So major standout for the campaign is the environments. The way that they set up the environments in the game, as far as the visual detail and the art style, it just looks so much better than it did last year. And I think they showed more of the grappling hook gameplay elements and how that's going to factor into the gameplay also. I think what they're doing with the story is interesting too, about how he's making contact with the new AI and how that's going to tie into the story and set that new relationship up, because the games in the past have always been about Chief and Cortana's relationship, and how they're going to set up this relationship between Master Chief and the new AI. I think is going to be kind of like the main draw of the campaign. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Okay. Sam, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so obviously I've shared my thoughts on the multiplayer before, and I really liked that. Seeing the campaign again after all this time, it's been a while. There was the whole controversy last year, but the birth of Craig, one of the great memes over the last 2 years. So, there was a lot going into this. I believe, in my humble opinion, that 343 has delivered. That's what it looks like to me. The gameplay itself, which is what matters, looks really, really fun. The graphics are improved over last year. They're not, like, mind-blowing, right? Like, you can definitely still tell it's a cross-gen game. It's not like Forza Horizon 5 or Horizon Forbidden West, where it's a cross-gen game, but you look at it and you go, okay, how? How is this cross-gen? What on earth is it doing to the older system? It's not like that. Like, you can look at this and tell it could run on an Xbox One, even if not as well. But it does look better, and the gameplay sandbox looks so fun. The idea that you've got, like, this banished base. Mike, mentioning Far Cry was actually a good point. Like, a lot of Far Cry, I would even dare say Crysis. The original Crysis, where you've got this wide open space, but there's pockets of enemy resistance you can find, and then you can take a vehicle to it, or you can go on foot. And it's the grappling hook. Oh my God! Again, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Whoever decided that needed to be a part of the game needs a raise, because using that to like grab weapons, grab fusion coils, and throw them, destroying the base. Brilliant. The upgrade system is interesting. It looks like equipment works differently than multiplayer, which we kind of already knew, but we didn't know how it works. The art direction on all the enemies. Shout out to that elite, man, with the red energy sword. He's a named character. It seems like he's an assassin, a blade master who comes after you. Radonai, I think is his name. That dude looks awesome. That design is incredible. So yeah, I'm really interested in it. And also, I guess I'll conclude on this because Mike brought up the whole new AI. It's an interesting thing because the relationship between Chief and Cortana was always Chief learning from Cortana, right? He was asking Cortana for advice. He was asking her what was going on. She was filling him in on the situation. This almost, dare I say it, feels like a role reversal of that, where Chief is the one who's in the loop, and this AI is, very green, wet behind the ears, naive, however you want to put it. She's cheerful, she's perky, and he's the one going, no, that's not a friend, we need to leave. No, everyone's trying to kill me. And I think that's an interesting dynamic to shake up, considering that Chief's personality, as subdued as it is such a core part of the Halo games. So yeah, I'm excited. What about you, Ivan?
For me, I would definitely say I'm interested in the title. It's not a surprise. I'm not a big Halo guy.
Sure.
I think um I have my fears and what I'm concerned about story wise. Um, but I have like I think it looks better than I thought it was gonna be. I'm definitely not like I'm not in like a downer camp for this. My biggest fear about it was what I do like about it is it seems like they're allowing you to mix and match more power ups and abilities in the campaign. Like watching them say, like, all right, well, I have a gravity hammer and I also have the grappling hook and I grapple behind this guy and I'm also invisible at the same time. And it's like, all right, you're giving me tools here to do some crazy cool stuff and I like it. Like that's what I want to see. That's what I'm excited for. I'm not thrilled about where I think the story is going in regards to a villain. Because I mean, you and I, everyone here knows Atriox is the big villain of this campaign, but they haven't really shown him at all. Um, like they've kind of like done hints and clues, like, oh yeah, here's that guy you saw from the first part where he's like a lower level guy, Atriox. And I'm like, but I need to see Atriox though. I need to see the villain aspect, which I think it's also kind of funny that Mike brings up Far Cry because Far Cry is known for their villains story wise. So I'm trying to figure out how does Halo survive without at least having a decent villain, at least in terms of the story. That I'm kind of in a weird position because of that. So
Sure,
I don't know.
sure. I'm going to counter to you. I don't think Atriox was ever meant to be the main villain of this. I don't think that's the case at all. In fact, the very fact that they even showed that new, I don't know what the hell she is, like the Harbinger or whatever, like no one knows. We literally have no clue for what she is, but she's a villain in this. That elite as well, and then Asharim, who's the brute second in command you're referring to. They showed him last year. They've all been mentioned. I don't think Atriox is in this. I really don't. I'm not saying that's good or bad necessarily. I'm just saying as a point of like fact.
Sure. But yeah, question. I don't know. But is it I because I think that's one of the bigger problems that Halo has had is that they don't really have a great villain at all. And I mean, I don't know if they're building up towards something like, hey, yeah, Atriox will come eventually. Like if they're saying like, oh, this is a precursor to something else, maybe. But I don't know. I get Warden vibes sometimes, like with in Halo 4, where it's like, oh yeah, Halo. Yeah, he looks like a pretty bad guy. Never see him again. Say, okay,
Yeah.
Like, wow, we did a lot of work here in terms of setting them up. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
No, I think that's fair. That's fair.
I think that's fair. It's a good observation. Halo doesn't really know how to do like main villains. That's a good point.
The closest they've ever come, I would say, it was the Prophet of Truth from Halo 2 to Halo 3. That's probably the closest.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Anything else in gaming news wise we got? I can't think of anything major. This is one of those weirder times where it's like, all right, it's the calm before the storm, and like everything that does come out is kind of planned. So it's like, all right, like it none of it's like not like genuine like news drops or anything like that. It's all like planned PR stuff right now. Until we start getting to
yeah.
The one thing that I will add about Halo Infinite that is encouraging, now this is anecdotal, of course, but on social media, the hardcore Halo guys, like I'm not a hardcore Halo guy, I'm like a casual Halo fan, but like the hardcore Halo guys, like they seem very pleased with what 343 is doing. And I think that says a lot because they've been very vocal and critical of 343 in the past. So I think they have an opportunity here to bridge the more casual fans with the hardcore fans, and I think that would definitely be a good thing for the longevity of the game.
Yep, because Halo's always had that problem where it's just the hardcore old school fan base had such a command over them, like
totally.
They could kill a game without even playing it, like which is how much of a sway that they have, and so it's a weird scenario for them. So I always keep that in mind because like other games, like there's always been complaints about whether or not a game evolves or not enough, and I feel like Halo is the only franchise I can even think of where people genuinely do not want that game to evolve at all.
Yeah. Which isn't realistic. And I think I think 343 has struck a balance here, where like a lot of the enhanced movement from Halo 4 and especially Halo 5, that's here to stay. Sprint is not going to ruin a game, y'all. Clambering up ledges is not going to ruin a game. However, the art direction, the gameplay itself seems much more old school. With some evolutions, of course.
Yeah.
Yep. So. All right. So we gave James his 30 minutes. So I guess we'll start getting into some of our Spooktober picks. Just for a couple of these. We're gonna let you, Mike, go ahead and give you an extra pick for you, simply just because you're making up for last time. So you one bonus pick. What do you got? What do you got for us? What is your essential Halloween picks for us?
Other than The Witch, which James and I and Sam have talked about on here at length, which is phenomenal, and you should see it. So I actually do have an honorable mention. I put this as an honorable mention, not with my actual 3 picks, because Ivan, this is something that you mentioned last year. So there is a 1990 Disney movie called The Witches. And in that movie, there is a scene where the kid gets transformed by the witches into a mouse. And oh my God, Ivan, you are absolutely right. That scene is fucked up. Now,
that is such nightmare fuel.
I saw this movie for the first time last Halloween, that season, right after you mentioned this. And I could not imagine seeing that as a kid. Like, it's real messed up. Seriously. It is straight up nightmare fuel. So that's my honorable mention. For my main 3 picks, I got 2 games.
Wait, just to pause for a second. There's also a question. Did you see the remake that they did?
No, I didn't.
All right. Sam, did you see the remake at all? Do you care?
I did not, and I don't care. So.
Okay. So here's the thing. So you've seen the movie and say, all right, the whole part of the movie is eventually he turns human again, with his friends, and everyone lives happily ever after, but they become like witch hunters, right? That's the whole thing at the end of the.
Right.
So in the remake, which I will say, the remake is really good. It's just a different kind of movie. Um,
Okay. Okay.
so you know how like when the grandmother's talking at first, and she's talking about like, oh yeah, my friend from whatever died and did some stuff. Um, well, in the original movie, they show like we're like, oh yeah, she gets cast into this painting, and like she grows old in the painting, and then eventually dies in the painting. And like it's kind of scary, not really scary per se, but like, that's kind of messed up, like that kind of thing. Um, in the new movie, so they recontextualize it, so where it's all in England the first time. Now it's like in Louisiana, like the Americans, like southeast is kind of the area. Um, they recontextualize it to more of like a post World War II time frame. Um, so same general time, but just a different location entirely. Um, they have like Chris Rock is like doing a narration for the whole movie. And he's like he's some omniscient narrator. Um, they see the show like and try to contextualize like, all right, here's how messed up the witches are. Um, they show like this sequence of like they live like in a poor ghetto neighborhood in like the 40s, and the grandmother's friend gets turned into a chicken, and like they show the process of her turning into a chicken, and I watched it like 6 or 7 times. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is up. Like just it's not like a nice like poof in a thing of like a smoke or anything. It's just like nope, we're gonna show the whole process, beak, feathers, the whole thing. And I'm like, ugh, like it's just ugh, doesn't look good. But the major departure for me, which is at the end of the movie, yeah, they do the whole they become witch hunters thing, but they don't turn human. They stay as mice, and they age rapidly because of mice. So watching Chris Rock Mouse become a witch hunter is just really, really like that definitely sticks in your brain, and it's just like, weird. So, but yeah, I'd say it's definitely worth a watch, I guess. But yeah, I'm endorsing your pick.
Um, where were they? Oh, so my three main picks. I got two games and I got a movie. So the first game that I have is from the Silent Hill series, but it's not one of the quote unquote main games in the series. This is a little bit more of an obscure one. Is Silent Hill Shattered Memories. I believe this game came out in 2010, I believe, for the Wii.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I believe it was 2010 for the Wii. The thing with this game was this was basically like a alternative universe retelling of sorts of the original Silent Hill. The setup was the same. The protagonist, Harry Mason, is the same, but they kind of tell it a little bit differently. Two of the things that I thought made this game unique was that this was one of the few games that actually used the motion controls of the Wii well. And they actually thought this through. Like, it wasn't like some tacked on waggle type of thing. Like, your motion controls, most of the game takes place in either darkness or pitch darkness. And your flashlight, Harry's flashlight, is tied to your Wii remote. So that was done really well. And there's some environmental puzzles that had some interaction with the objects in the environment throughout the game to solve the puzzles. So, like, you might grab like a can of soda, and there's a key in there, and you would use the Wii remote to kind of like twist it upside down and shake the can out. So there were a lot of examples of object interaction like that I thought made the game really good. and use the motion controls well, where it actually added to the immersion, as opposed to feeling tacked on. This is one of those horror games where there's no real combat. There's exploration segments, and then I'll call them chase segments. The entire game world basically gets overtaken by ice, and you know immediately when that happens, crap's about to hit the fan, and you got to start running because you really don't have any way to fight back against the enemies in the game. There's only one enemy type in this game, and the interesting thing about it is there's sections throughout the game where you have a session with a psychotherapist. There's a lengthy session near the beginning of the game, and they're also interspersed throughout as well. And depending upon how you answer these psychotherapist questions, like he'll give you like ink blot tests and things like that. He'll ask you some off-the-wall questions. And depending upon how you answer the questions, it not only affects the what areas you go to in the game and what ending you get, but it also affects the appearance of the enemies as well. So that's my first pick, Silent Hill Shattered Memories for the Wii. Not one of the better known games in the series, but if you do have access to a Wii still, I do think it's worth checking it out. It had some interesting elements in it, and it did use the motion controls well. My second pick is a 2014 film. I'm not sure if I talked about this on here before. I apologize if I did. Is the Babadook. This is a 2014 Australian film starring Essie Davis and Noah Wiseman. And what I thought made this film interesting is that it's a different take on the demonic possession genre. Scary movies nowadays, horror movies, about 8 out of 10 involves demonic possession in some way, and I thought this was an interesting take on it. The filmography was really good. Used a very bleak and muted color palette. Soundtrack is good, and what I liked about the movie was that it wasn't really so much about demonic possession. What it does was it delves into the mind of this widow who's just completely exhausted, and how fractured her psyche is, and her inability to process grief, and how all of those things affect the relationship that she has with her son, is what the movie is really about. It was on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on there or not, but if you could rent it for cheaply enough, I definitely think it's worth a watch. So the Babadook. The third.
I see your. It does my heart good, Mike, that you're just taking all my suggestions from years past and finally coming to terms. It does my heart good.
Last one that I have, I know that I've spoken about this on here before, is Outlast, and I just can't overstate enough how terrifying and panic-inducing this game is. For those of you that haven't played Outlast, it came out early in the lifespan of the PS4 and the Xbox One, probably about 2013, 2014-ish, if I were to guess. It's a stealth horror game set in a mental asylum. It had some unique elements in it, mainly revolving around the use of a video camera. Most of the game takes place in either very dark environments or almost completely dark. And your video camera has a night vision mode to it that helps you see in the dark, but it also can run out of battery. So part of the game becomes, in effect, like, okay, it's strategic. When are you going to use your night vision? When are you not? Is it worth the risk looking around these environments to find extra batteries for your camera? There's no weapons, so there's no combat at all. The only other thing I can really say about this game is that it is incredibly stressful. The only thing that possibly came close to as far as stress and utter panic was maybe the first hour of Resident Evil 7. Picture that for an entire game, and that's Outlast. This is a game that was so stressful, I actually couldn't finish it. Like, I stopped about halfway through the game, and I had to watch the rest through a Let's Play on YouTube just to get the rest of the story. But if you're really in the mood to be scared, like, play Outlast, put the lights off, put headphones on,
dude.
and
Dude,
it is insane.
Dude, I have to co-sign you yet again. Dude, I played that when that game came to console. That thing scared the shit out of me.
I just want to step in and third this one up. Yeah, the pacing in Outlast is, Mike, would you agree it is unrelenting? It does not let you go.
No, it doesn't. There's no downtime at all.
Yeah, like it is brutal. So like I remember my moment too because I was like I just kind of been delving into scary games. I had just come off of Alien Isolation. I was like, okay, I'm excited. I kind of want to see where things go. Let's see what. All right, just as a heads up, there's a huge thunderstorm outside.
Okay.
So if I go out, that's why. So anyway, so the whole thing was, I remember because I was like, all right, I tried playing the game at night, and I was like, all right, I'm too freaked out. And so I was like, I started playing it. I was in college, and I started playing it in the morning, like at 11 o'clock in the morning, with like the windows open, birds chirping. I turned on some music and started playing the game. I was so terrified anyway. I was just like, I remember like going up and climbing in through the window of the asylum, the very first part of the game, and you walk into this dark room and you can see the door and the light under the door just enough to know where it is. The atmosphere was crushing. Like you couldn't. I was so scared just to move across this room. I thought something was going to happen like immediately. Nothing happens at all in that room, but I was just so terrified that first section. I did not finish it either. I got to the part where you go down to the basement and like the guys are chasing you in the dark and like you end up like hiding under beds and stuff. Like I got to that part and I was like, I can't do this. I'm out.
Yeah, Sam hit the nail on the head. The pacing in that game is unrelenting. Like even like there's certain games like Resident Evil 2, for example. Mr. X is panic inducing because you know you have to deal with him at some point. But at least you could duck into a safe room. You could kind of get a reprieve from him for a little bit. There is no reprieve from any of this in Outlast 2.
The only reason I was able to finish that game is because it's not a long game. It's like 2 hours, maybe, if you know what you're doing. That is the only reason I was able to finish it. Like, that is like a 7-8 hour game. Sweet Lord, no.
No.
Yeah. All right. I think you have one more, right? Or no, that was your last one.
No, that was his third, I think.
Was it? My third. That was my third. I have one more honorable mention, real quick. I gotta give a shout out once again to House Beneviento from Resident Evil 8. My God, that was so well done.
Yep, magnificent.
Yes.
Great game all around. Don't get me wrong, but like that particular section is.
It actually makes me want to see what would happen if Konami let the rights go and let Capcom do a Silent Hill game.
Yeah, that segment, that little slice there is probably the closest thing we're getting to a modern Silent Hill game.
Yeah. All right. I will go next because Sam, I got a good feeling about yours, and I want to make sure James can hear that. We're kind of stalling for time as long as we can here. All right.
Yeah, we are.
So last time I picked House of Wax, the 2005 reboot. Gave a little bit of backstory about the whole series, and I also chose Chilling Tales of Sabrina. So this one I have 3 picks. I also have an honorable mention this time. Batman: The Long Halloween. This is a 2-parter.
Ooh.
Yeah, I watched it, and like this is like Halloween vibes. Is kind of the whole thing about it. Like it just feels good. Like it's an atmosphere movie more than anything else. I think for me. Now, admittedly, it's two movies, part one and part two. If you've never watched or never read or anything about that with Long Halloween, um, it's kind of like it's a retrofitted Two Face origin story. Um, but it starts off in Halloween one year, and then it takes place only on holidays from Halloween to Halloween. And it shows kind of like the growth of Two Face and that. But most of these movies take place on Halloween. The first movie I think is like 30 minutes out of an hour and a half runtime on Halloween, and like the second thing, the other one's another 30 minutes on that too. But it does a really good job of establishing a nice Halloween vibe to it. And yeah, there's a good story to it, really good mystery involved. Probably one of the like, well, a lot of people say the seminal Batman work for the detective, uh, was it his detective hat? So I mean, yeah, I definitely see that, but it's just a good story and a good mystery told. But yeah, I mainly choose it because the art direction they decided to go with this one is just different than Batmans they've been doing in the past, and them going this direction just feels really good. It is available on HBO Max, so you can watch it on there. Definitely, I recommend it. One. A lot of the Halloween picks I choose because of certain vibes and feelings that I get from them, even if they aren't great horror films. So that's what I picked as my honorable mention.
Nice.
Um,
Also, hey there, James. How you doing?
there he
Hey,
is.
James.
Yeah. Hello, everybody.
Hey, yeah, we did Mike's picks for Spooktober. Mike, you want to run through those real quick, just so he has an idea where we're at right now?
Yes. So, honorable mention was the Witches, 1990 Disney film. My three picks, James. I had two games and a movie. They were Silent Hill: Shattered Memories for the Wii, The Babadook, and Outlast.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yep.
I love Silent Hill. Shadow Memories. It was so good.
It was really good, wasn't it? And I was
The
saying,
phone calls through the remote. Oh, it's brilliant.
yes, it used the Wii like it was actually thoughtful. The way that they used the hardware, it wasn't tacked on.
Hmm.
All right. So I'm doing mine. So my honorable mention was Batman Long Halloween. So last episode we did at the beginning of October, um, we did my picks were House of Wax, the 2005 reboot, as well as Chilling Tales of Sabrina. So my first official pick is actually a bit of a classic, Trick or Treat. Um,
Very good.
and
Very good.
I only even picked it because I saw it like one time, like a long time ago. But I went to a Spirit of Halloween and I saw a bit, I saw an animatronic for it, and I was like, huh, I haven't seen that in a while. Let me rewatch that. Good anthology film. Things are interconnected. I had a good, it's good. It's solid. Some good actors involved, like all like C-list celebrity types, and it's just a good film. Um, it kind of it hits on. This is sound like a terrible analogy. Um, it's like the Justice League uh, Christmas special that they did for the 2000s iteration of it, where they kind of like had a bunch of different things, and they were really more focused on what does this holiday mean to people in different life positions. And the film kind of touches on that. Like they touch on it in terms of like, all right, well, what does it mean for like children? And they do like a scary story associated with the children aspect. What does it mean for like single available young people? What does it mean for adults? And they kind of like touch on a little bit of everything. And I think that's what I like about it the most is that there's something anyone who watches it can relate to in that movie. I think I like that aspect of it as a solid Halloween film as opposed to a scary film. It's one of those things where they're not trying to be the best at any one thing, but they're trying to cover all their bases where they're
Yeah.
good at everything. So there's that. My other pick is a bit out there, but also I rewatched it. All right, a little bit of backstory. I just come back from my brother's wedding. I was a little buzzed, and I didn't have anything else to do, so I was in my hotel room and I watched this movie. And like, it didn't really sink in until I watched it over the weekend as like a rewatch. Just how terrifying this movie is. Witcher: Nightmare of the Wolf. Sam, have you seen this yet? I assume you have. I think we talked about it before.
No, we haven't, and I know that's like horrifying given me, but I have not been. It's been one of those things where I have not been able to sit down and know that I'd be able to watch it,
Yeah.
not distracted. So it's on my list when I actually get to breathe.
Right.
But continue. Don't worry.
So the basic premise of it is that it's a prequel to the Witcher series as a whole. You're following Vesemir in his prime, who is Geralt's teacher or mentor, I guess, probably the best term, mentor. And it follows his perspective. Holy crap, do they go way overboard with the gore on this? Like, you just see things like vines like penetrating people and just ripping them apart. Like, just some really dark stuff. And it's like, wow. Like, the first time I watched it, I was not in the right mood for it. But like, I watched it earnestly over the weekend, and I was like, wow. That's all I could say. Just wow. Um, I I strongly urge you to watch it. Like, even if you're not in the mood for watching like a scary movie or even like Halloween or anything like that, I strongly urge you to watch it like as a gamer, because I walked away from it with two things. One, this is actually really dark and scary and I like it. Two, holy crap, if they do a Witcher 4, I would rather they dump Geralt and go to Vesemir like this. Like, I love the characterization of this. So I strongly urge all the gamers to watch this on Netflix. It's really good. The people who are like hardcore lore fans may not like one or two things, but it's all forgivable stuff. So, but yeah,
Cool, man.
Yep.
I am looking forward to whenever I get a chance to watch it.
Totally worth the time. Like, just like, this is definitely like a by yourself, like, nice warm cup of cocoa, like nothing else, you and butter, just
Gotcha.
watching this together, like at 2 o'clock in the morning, like that's the
Gotcha.
kind of vibe I get from it. Like, it's like, yeah,
All right.
especially when it's cold out.
Oh
It's
yeah,
different. It's different when it's cold out. All right, and my last one, Dracula, 1958.
Ooh.
Is that the one with Christopher Lee?
Yes, it is the one with Christopher Lee, you bastard. So a little bit of backstory. So this is the Hammer franchise. Um, every so often you see like reboots of stuff, and this happens a lot. But it's the third. This was falls into the whole 30-year rule, where you had the producer. I can't remember his last name. Something Hammer. Um, he grew up with the 1930s depictions of you know uh, Dracula, Wolfman, Frankenstein, Mummy. Grew up with those, and so he wanted to have his interpretations of it, and so he did his interpretations through the late 50s through the 60s, even through the 70s. And then after that time, then they rebooted them in the 90s. They do this a lot. There's a lot of reboots that go on, but I follow the 30-year rule in this case. So this particular one is really good for a couple of reasons. One, they do tweak the Dracula lore, and it's less. I would say it's. I don't know. Maybe James can explain it. It's less. fantastical, I guess. Like, he doesn't turn into a bat. He doesn't like command a legion of wolves or anything like that. Um, he doesn't like change the weather or anything. They treat it more like an infection, and you get some powers out of the infection, but they conveniently like kind of skip over any like thing that requires like real special effects. They kind of just get away with it. Um, but also the cast is just very interesting, especially because it's Peter Cushing plays Van Helsing. Um, those of you that don't know Peter Cushing, this is gonna be a terrible thing to even say. Um, Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is probably his most well-known role, unfortunately.
Yeah.
yeah, I would say by far.
So, yeah.
Not in Britain, not here.
Oh yeah, what's it for
Right,
you?
right.
If you asked him, that it'd probably be Van Helsing or any of the other horror villains that he's played.
Well, that's the funny thing too, because apparently him and Christopher Lee, they had a really good like monster creator or monster hunter dynamic.
Oh yeah,
Like
they're
they,
best friends.
yeah, and they keep switching roles all the time. So it's funny. Like they did a Curse of Frankenstein movie, and Christopher Lee's the monster, and Peter Cushing's Victor Frankenstein. Like, okay.
Well, yeah, it's because Christopher Lee's really tall.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yep. But the other part,
There
at least in
is
terms of casting, I can't remember his name right now. It's the guy who ends up playing Lucy's brother. What was his name? Hold up. Let me pull it up here. I can find it. Give me a
Lucy
second.
and what?
Oh yeah, they switch Mina and Lucy. They switch Mina and Lucy in this one.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's a little confusing. They do make some changes like this a lot. But yeah, they make a lot of changes to things, and it's at a certain point when you've had so many adaptations, it's hard to get really mad about anything. Just they change it a lot. But the guy they get to play Arthur
you say
Homewood.
so many adaptations. They hadn't had that many adaptations.
Oh no, at the
by
time, yeah.
1958.
Yeah, at the time, no, that's different. But I mean, like in general, it's hard to get mad when there's been like 20 interpretations of Dracula over the course of this many of almost 100 years of film. Like it's really hard to get upset about it. But anyway, the point about it is Michael Gough is the guy who plays Arthur Homewood, who's kind of like Peter Cushing's what's the term I'm looking for?
Familiar?
No, not familiar. I guess more like the audience
Assistant?
stand-in. It was more of like an audience stand-in where you're
surrogate?
like, yeah, audience surrogate. That's what I'm looking for. Where it's like, all right, he's supposed to be like, what? That's not possible. Whoa, what do you mean? Oh my god, I can't believe I've seen this. He's supposed to be more like that. But for those of us here in the States, we don't really know who that guy is, except for one thing. And it's another Bat franchise. He is the original Alfred in the films, with the Michael Keaton Batman, and with Val Kilmer, and with George Clooney. He plays Alfred. And so I like to have the idea that actually it's one interconnected franchise, where in reality he lost his entire family to Dracula. And so he joins it. He like, all right, well, screw it. I'm going to be a butler. I moved to the United States. And then he gets up, he basically gets haunted by another bat figure for the rest of his life. So it's fun to watch. Like it's just the Hammer franchise is very interesting because they had certain rules to deal with. Like they weren't allowed to use like anything that actually looked like blood. So they had to do.
I've got to do a little bit of correction for that.
All right, good.
Hammer is not a franchise; it is a movie studio.
Yes, it is.
So the Hammer Film is a movie studio. Like Hammer Films was the production company. So calling them Hammer franchise is not quite right. Carry on.
What I mean is specifically, at least in terms of that, is that these are the incarnations from this particular production studio. So I
Oh,
normally
fine,
refer
yeah,
to it
fine.
as the Hammer franchise version of this of these monsters.
Mhm.
So one of the issues they had to deal with is they couldn't have blood that actually looked like blood, and so they make it this really garish red color. But what they do to kind of trick your brain to think it looks like blood is they change all the tones of red to match the same color. So like what they did was, for example, when you're in Dracula's castle, where everything's supposed to be blood red as the general color for all of his stuff, they changed it to look like this hokey dumb red that's supposed to be the same color of blood in this film. But it's fun little changes that they do, and tricks to try to like make your mind not think about how weird some of the stuff is. So, but yeah, it's fun. It's appreciative. I have a good time with it. I think it's a good watch.
Nice.
For those who are interested in Hammer horror and other British horror films of the 50s and 60s, there's a brilliant series on YouTube. Well, it was done on the BBC by Mark Gatiss, who is is one of the head writers on Sherlock and also on the Dracula miniseries, which was bad, but he does know his stuff about horror. He did 3 episodes, one about classic American from the early 20s and 30s. Then the second episode is about home counties horror, so that's Britain and bits of Europe. And then the third and final episode is about the American Scream of like the slasher movies of the 70s, stopping at Halloween. It's a brilliant 3-part series. They're an hour each. They're so good.
Yep. That's like fun. I haven't watched a good documentary like that in a while. I think the last great horror one I watched was America Red, White, and Blue.
Mm.
Or like, oh, sorry, horror Red, White, and Blue, I believe. And they did the same thing where they covered decades, but they focused more on American changes and how it reflected fears of the time. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. All right, James, you want to go, or Sam, do you want to?
James, why don't you go?
Sure. I've got a couple things that I think. I don't think I've ever talked about this film. I definitely haven't talked about this film on the show. So, has anyone here heard of a 1978 movie called Magic?
No.
It
No.
sounds familiar, but I don't know.
Here we go. If we're talking about big stars appearing in horror movies, are you ready for this? Starring Sir Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins plays a ventriloquist whose dummy suddenly picks up a habit
I
of
know this
murdering
one.
people.
Yes, I know this one. I watched it like
This
6
film-
months ago.
This film is fucking brilliant. It is not as gory as other films of its era. It's the same year as Halloween, so you know that is the comparison. It is all in the psychological element of it. There's this one epic scene where Anthony is looking at the ventriloquist dummy, and he's waiting for the dummy to speak. He's going, "Are you real? Am I? What's going on?" It's so ahead of its time when it comes to psychological horror and asking what is real and what isn't. And yeah, it's post The Exorcist, but everything post The Exorcist is indebted to The Exorcist. Magic is really, really good. I don't know where it is available to rent at the moment, or even I don't know if it's on any streaming services.
I saw it on HBO, so that's where I saw it. But I don't think it's here anymore. I'm looking at it now. But
yeah, I mean, it's a 20th Century Fox production, so if it's going to be anywhere, it's going to be on Disney Plus. But I doubt it's going to be there right now.
Yeah, maybe not right now. They don't even have like other horror, well, quote unquote horror, scary Halloween stuff on Disney Plus right now, which is kind of lame.
It's maddening. I don't know if it's the same on the American one. On the UK version, on Star, which is our version of Hulu. So we have our own little section on Disney Plus UK called Star, which is all the Hulu stuff basically, and all the adult stuff. They have Aliens, Alien 3, and Resurrection, but not Alien.
What?
Anyway.
What?
People get contractual
so
deals for
weird.
stuff. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, and we have Die Hard 2, 4, and 5, but not 6 or the first one.
Wow.
All 3, like, you know, the good ones.
Yeah, what was it?
So there we go. Magic,
Yeah,
1978, starring Anthony
what?
Hopkins with a ventriloquist doll.
Yeah,
So good.
one thing to add about that, the scene that sticks out to me is whenever his friend comes and finds him at the cabin, and he's like, "Prove to me you can talk without the dummy for 5 minutes." Or like just like five or
It's
2 minutes,
amazing.
and like you see how stressed he is, and it's like, wow, like
It's
this.
glorious.
Yeah, that was just great Anthony Hopkins acting there.
Anthony Hopkins, this is 13 years before Silence of the Lambs, so he looks relatively young,
Yeah,
comparatively, because most people think Anthony, they think Lecter, which very
yeah.
much could make any of our lists, but we don't need to recommend it because everyone's seen Silence of the Lambs. Okay, let's go for something a bit more recent. As of within a year this has been out. I have talked about this on the show before, but I'm going to do it again. Host is just about one of the best films ever made, at least in this century. I genuinely think I think it's a perfect film. Part of it is due to its length. I think it was Variety. They ran an article about the scariest horror films based on heart rate, and based on heart rate per minute. And this film is officially the scariest film of all time because it's 56 minutes long. So the heart rate just goes up and it doesn't stop for 56 minutes. For those of you who don't know, I know you all know because I didn't shut up about this movie for 2 months last year. This is a film about lockdown, set in lockdown, and it's all set on one Zoom call when a group of friends are. Oh, wait a minute, was I disconnected?
Nope, I can still hear you.
Okay, just making sure. So a group of friends were on Zoom having a seance, and one of them doesn't take it quite seriously, and that friend, making one joke, has let a demon into the Zoom call and is messing up every single person individually. It is gloriously tense. It's very, very rare that you can do something that impressive on such a small budget on a computer screen. I advocate going to see films in cinemas. Watch this film on a laptop. You'll shit yourself.
I just wanted to say, I just want to back you up on Host. Host is excellent.
I am going to. I am going to third that motion, James. Host was fantastic.
I mean, it took me shouting at you for weeks to watch that movie, but it was so worth it.
Man, was it worth it? And you are absolutely right. Watch this on a laptop.
Yep.
I've recently, I don't think I've talked about it on this show. I've seen the director's follow-up movie. I saw it at the London Film Festival, Dashcam. That thing's gross as hell. And here's a story for you. So, we've all heard stories of The Exorcist and the cinema release it had, and people running out of the cinema in fear, right? We've all heard those stories.
Of course.
Okay, so I have an actual story. I went to the press screening of that film. 2 critics had to leave to throw up, and then they came back and watched the rest of the movie.
Oh. Okay.
Now, there is something to be said about normal people going to watch a movie and fainting because they weren't expecting it. When critics, who it's our job to watch films, and we like horror films, most critics love horror films, when we are so scared and disgusted that we have to go throw up and come back, that is something. It is all that any of us could talk about for like 3 days straight. We didn't care that we just saw the new Will Smith movie or the new Netflix film with Idris Elba. All we wanted to talk about was Dashcam. I don't know when it's coming out. It doesn't currently have any distribution deals. It is produced by Blumhouse, but it has no deals with any services right now. So it is seeking distribution, and I really hope it finds it because Dashcam is just, that is a ride and a half. But anyway,
that's a name I'll keep in mind.
That is not my actual pick. I just wanted to shout it out. Final pick, 2009. I'm keeping this one relatively modern. I reckon we've all seen it, but we might have forgotten how good it is. And I know a lot of people didn't see it. Jennifer's Body deserved better.
Good pick.
Jennifer's
Good
Body
pick.
deserved so much better. This film, written by Diablo Cody, who wrote Juno and a bunch of other great stuff. She's a great writer. Directed by Karen Kusama, who did Girl Fight in 2000. She directed Aeon Flux and The Invitation, another great horror film. She never really got what she deserved, which is an amazing hit, and Jennifer's Body is that hit that nearly was. How did a movie in 2009 starring Amanda Seyfried and Megan Fox wasn't a hit? How did it happen? I've no idea. Produced by Jason Reitman. I mean, this film had everything going for it, and yet somehow it didn't work. The plot, for some who don't know, it is a sort of a studious teenager, Anita, played by Amanda, and she has a friend who's a popular cheerleader, Jennifer, played by Megan Fox. And one night, Jennifer is sort of taken by some people. One of them is Adam Brody from the OC, who's very good. And she is sacrificed, and accidentally a demon gets put in her and she starts to kill people. This film's great. This film is so fun. This film is so interesting. It's sexy when it needs to be, like all weird horror films sort of are, because you've got that R rating, you can show some boobs, good for you, well done. But if you do it in a great way, hell yeah. Jennifer's Body is just fantastic. And in the era of Me Too, this film has been massively reappropriated as a feminist horror film, and I love that. I think finally this film is getting the cult following it deserved at the time.
Yeah,
so,
I've been seeing
Jennifer's Body host, and magic.
Yeah, a good pick on Jennifer's Body. That film has been going through something of a renaissance lately. I've seen a lot of people talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, what about you, Sam? What you got for us?
All right. I know for a fact I haven't recommended one of these before. I'm 90% sure I haven't recommended the other two. So correct me if I'm wrong, or whatever, because I've got some backups. But one of them that I wanted to shout out, 1981 film, Dragon Slayer. If you like Dragon Slayer, have you seriously not heard of this, Ivan?
I also have not heard of this.
This is one of those things where it's like I've heard so many titles at this point. I'm like,
oh my god! Wow. Okay. So the name Vermithrax Pejorative does not ring a bell. To be clear. Holy crap! Okay, I'm shocked that none of the three of you have heard of this. Okay. So, really quick, I'll try and go quick here. 1981 film, very controversial for its time. It didn't make its budget back, so it's one of those, like, cult classic, it's one of those, definitely. But it is a sword and sorcery film, except unlike a lot of the big sword and sorcery films of the time, this thing is dark. Dark, dark, dark. It is very gritty, and the entire idea is this is like pagan post-Rome Europe, where it's the Dark Ages, the medieval kingdoms haven't really spread, Christianity is given a side eye, and it's about a kingdom that is being ravaged by this dragon. And, the king, who is corrupt and greedy, of course, but he doesn't want his daughter to die, has agreed to appease the dragon by sacrificing young girls who are virgins twice a year. Classic dragon stuff. And you've got the hero, except instead of being a heroic knight in shining armor fighting for God and country, he's actually kind of a rogue who can barely use any magic, and he's not really a good person. And that's the entire appeal of this film, is it's just a subversion of the classic knight and dragon tropes in every single way. And I'm seriously not over the fact that none of the three of you have seen it. Wow, geez.
Wait a minute, I need to look something up, because I think I have seen bits of this movie, but for an entirely different reason.
Okay. All right, you might have, so go look it up. Well, so I won't spoil it for you if you do want to see it, but it is building to the clash of, this guy taking on the dragon. And I don't want to spoil anything, but again, like, this is ostensibly it's rated PG, but this is one of those old school PG ratings, back before Temple
But
of
when
Doom.
Poltergeist was rated PG, or The
Right,
Exorcist
exactly.
was rated PG.
Right, like it pulls some stuff. It pulls some stuff that wouldn't fly under PG-13 today, and it's really good. It does not pull its punches. It's just a good classic film if you're in the mood for something gothic that really is. I mean, it is unique. I will say that Guillermo del Toro and George R. R. Martin have both said the design of this dragon and like how horrific it was and how realistic it was burned into their brains and was like a big deal for them whenever they were designing mythological creatures or thinking about dragons moving forward. So it left an impact.
I have discovered why I do know bits of this film.
Okay.
So here's a bit of a story. The composer is a man called Alex North.
Right.
Who is a good composer, but he never really broke through as like one of the great composers of the 60s, 70s. He was commissioned to write the score for 2001: A Space Odyssey, and then was never told that his score wasn't actually used. So he turned up to the premiere of 2001, and his music wasn't there. And he then reused bits of that music in this film. And that is why I know it.
There you go. All right. There you go. I did not actually know that. So thank you, James. Always able to pull through some of the film knowledge that I don't have. But seriously, y'all. Seriously. Like, look up Dragon Slayer. It is well worth the watch.
All right, next one.
So, yeah, so my number 2 pick, this is the one I definitely know I haven't said. This is a very recent one, and that is a 2021 game called Returnal. PS5 only, developed by Housemarque. This is a sci-fi horror game, and it's not horror in a straightforward sense of like, monsters coming after you, whatever, but it's horror in how realistic the isolation of being stranded on an alien world would be. You play as Celine, she's a spacecraft pilot. She investigates a disturbance against orders from command. Her ship crashes down on the planet Atropos. And it's a roguelike, so, I've criticized some of the gameplay before, and I stand by that, but that's not what I want to talk about here. What I want to talk about is it really it tries to force you to wrap your mind around the idea of what happens if someone is truly living over and over again and dying over and over again, but they can't remember anything. She is advancing to new areas. For the first time, you find this ancient alien key and you open a tomb and you think you're making progress, and she finds her own corpse there with a radio recording. And she can't remember it, and it just intensifies and builds on that, and you keep on going deeper and deeper trying to understand where these things came from, what the history of this planet is. It's one woman attempting to follow protocol and then just slowly losing her mind through the entire thing. And it's an unusual sci-fi horror that it draws a lot from things like Prometheus, but I haven't seen this style of storytelling in games. Otherwise, it is really something. It's really unique. If you have a PS5, it is worth checking out. If you are like 90% of people and you don't have a PS5, it's understandable why you wouldn't.
You still can't get one here.
Yeah, I know.
It's not available.
The chip shortage it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Currently slated to run through 2023 is now when they're saying. It's bad. Pandemic, and a lot of other factors made it worse. Anyways, okay, so this is the one I'm not sure about. This is my 3rd pick. Tell me if I said this earlier, but I don't think I did. I know I've talked about it on this show, but I don't think I did it for Spooktober. And that is Little Nightmares 2.
I don't think you talked about it for this show.
Oh, I don't recall.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't recall you talking about it
for
for this show, but we've mentioned it in the past, yes.
Yeah, I know I've talked about this game because I really like it, but I didn't think I brought it up for Spooktober. Anyway, another 2021 game, so a little recent, but seriously worth checking out. It is the sequel to Little Nightmares. Now, did any of you play Little Nightmares?
Yes, I did.
I did.
Okay, cool. So you know what Little Nightmares is. I don't have to explain that to you. For anyone in the audience listening, it very quickly, side-scrolling game. You play as a young kid who is lost. Very distorted, nightmarish human beings who just, their limbs are too long, their necks are too long, or they're too bloated and grotesque. They're chasing you. Big theme of the rich consuming the poor, that sort of fun stuff. Little Nightmares 2 takes everything that the developer, Tarsier Studios, part of Embracer now, as so many things are, Tarsier Studios, it takes everything they learned and it applies it to a better setting. Instead of being confined to the bowels of this one cargo ship, Little Nightmares 2 sprawls across this city. So one scene, you're getting chased by a distorted, eerie redneck hunter in the woods who's trying to kill you with a shotgun. But the next, you're paddling across a giant lake and you see the gloom of a skyscraper piercing the fog. And you're exploring. You might go through a school where all the students, something has gone horribly wrong, and all the students have just gone erratic, and they're trying to get after you. The hospital ward. I don't want to say anything about the hospital ward, except it is my favorite scene out of any game this year. Not my favorite game overall, but that section, that slice, the way it fuses the horror with the gameplay mechanics and what you have to do, one of the best things I've seen done all year long. Little Nightmares
Sam,
2.
I want to make sure very clearly what you just said. Are you saying that level is better than House Beneviento in terms of horror?
At minimum, tied with.
Okay, there we go.
It is tied with it, at least. I don't want to give it away, but talking about it is kind of like giving away the House Beneviento thing. Because, okay, I'll say this. One thing that the original Little Nightmares did not have that Little Nightmares 2 does have is combat. Little Nightmares 2 does have combat. You play as a young kid, again, but this young kid is a bit older, he's a bit stronger, so he's able to fight back in certain situations. So because of that, what this segment does with the gameplay is something I haven't seen any other studio try to tackle. And it is really, really unique. So if you liked Little Nightmares, or honestly, even if you haven't played the original Little Nightmares, I would strongly, strongly encourage you to check out Little Nightmares 2. It's like $20. It is well worth the money. Definitely.
Cool. All right. I think it's a pretty solid lineup. Did anyone else have any other Spooktober picks before we wrap up the segment?
Yeah, you know what? A really quick one. I don't know if I mentioned it before. The Doctor Who episode Blink.
Yes, it's good.
Because it's amazing.
Evergreen.
Just go and watch it. You don't need to. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. Just it's one episode. You don't need to know anything about Doctor Who. You don't even need to like Doctor Who. It is 45 minutes long. It's one of the best single-contained horror stories of the 21st century. Go and watch it. Blink.
All right. I'm going to ask this part first because I know you guys want to talk about Midnight Mass for a little bit, and I have not finished it, so I'm going to kind of bow out while you guys talk about that. But I want to talk about one last thing. Dune. You guys see the new Dune yet?
I have seen Dune.
I did not.
You not?
I have not gotten a chance. However, I have tickets to go see it in IMAX on Thursday.
Right. I see. I'm in the same boat as you, Sam. I have not watched the other Dune, and I have not read it. I don't know anything about it. I watched the first. I watched this film. I liked it. I tried to watch the '80s movie. It is so dense and incomprehensible. But this was a lot easier to digest. So I would say it's a good watch. The closest thing I would compare it to, I only compare it to this because it has the same kind of vibe of, hey, we built a world around this, and it feels not complete, but it feels like a complete thought. Because like a lot of the times with movies and stuff, it's like they only think about a concept as far as, hey, this is enough to show something really cool on screen, and that's about it. This one feels on par with like Avatar or like a Blade Runner situation. where it's more. I walked away from it being like, okay, I understand how this world kind of works. I get it, and I felt like it was a more fleshed out world, all things considered. Um, yeah, that's all I'll say. But I'll let James talk for a bit.
Yes, so I have seen this movie twice now. First time I saw it was at a press screening, and the room was for about 80 people. So it's not ideal for watching something of this caliber. And my initial impression of it was not great, with the caveat of it had been in a particularly long day for me, and the screening started 90 minutes later than it should have. So I was in not a great mood, I was quite tired, and I didn't properly give the film the respect it might have deserved at the time. I then watched a week later in IMAX, and holy balls, this film blew me away. This thing it's a beast. And it's shorter than the Bond film. It feels longer because some might say that nothing happens, which is a stupid thing to say. A lot of things happen in this movie, but it feels like less things are happening because it's quite sedate. It's quite slowly paced. Slowly paced does not mean poorly paced. This film is very well paced, despite being very long. So Sam, you know nothing about Dune at all.
I know that the story revolves around houses and that there's spice that's important for space travel. That is literally what I know so far.
That's basically all you need to know. The context of that is the only houses you need to know for this film are Harkonnen, they're the bad guys, and Atreides, they're the good guys. And the spice that you mentioned is produced on Arrakis, and the spice is effectively oil. It is the most valuable substance in the entire universe because it allows for pilots to sort of see through star patterns, for lack of a better understanding, and allow for interstellar travel. So that is the reason why spice is so powerful and so valuable. And it's produced by the larvae of the sandworms on Arrakis, which means that the people who live on Arrakis just have it just in them. That's why they have really, really blue eyes. The Fremen, those people are called. You could go on from that point and do all of the sci-fi stuff, but you don't need to, because this film is very, very focused on Paul and what he's doing. It's very reminiscent of the first Lord of the Rings, in the sense that there's a lot that they have to do, and the way that they do it is focusing it to one character. If you rewatch Lord of the Rings, you realize that every scene after Bilbo leaves the Shire has Frodo in it. Apart from like one in the extended edition, but in the theatrical one, every single scene is about Frodo and his relationship with the ring. The other characters are there and they're peppered in, but it's Frodo and the ring. This film is very, very similar. This entire thing is Paul Atreides discovering his dreams on Arrakis. That is the entire point of the film. It's focused entirely on him, which makes sense. He's the main character and will become many things in the series going forward.
And my only thing I want to say is, Sam, please, dear God, do not watch the 1980s one until after you've watched this.
Don't.
I had no intention to. Don't worry.
I have a good feeling that it's going to be a great drinking game afterwards. It's going to be like, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? What the hell is this?
I definitely would recommend watching a documentary called Jodorowsky's Dune, which is tracking Alejandro Jodorowsky when he tried to make Dune in the 70s, when he had Pink Floyd on tap to do the soundtrack, and Salvador Dali was going to play the Emperor, and his son had learnt martial arts so he could play Paul Atreides, and the entire team that he built went off to make everything. He's the one who brought H.R. Giger to Hollywood, and then that team that he assembled then went off to make Alien. Jodorowsky's Dune is a secret masterpiece that was never made. And the documentary about that is fantastic. I think it's produced by Nicholas Winding Refn. It's really, really good. But back to Dune. It's it is as epic as you want it to be, but it is calm enough and sedate enough to speak to you individually. It's not like a Marvel film where it's just so much is going on and you need to be paying attention. Because if you miss the tiniest little Easter egg, you'll feel like you've missed out. This film is just it's surprisingly chill and quite cool, despite being really bombastic at the same time. I really, really liked it. I'm going to go watch it again because I feel like I need to even one more.
Yeah.
But it's very, very good. And numbers-wise, let's talk about box office for a second, because it's doing incredibly well. Like, it's doing really, really well. So it opened in a bunch of markets in the international box office like a few weeks ago, maybe even a month ago, and it's made $182 million in the international box office so far. I think it is yet to open in China. I think that is coming. It's made $41 million. This is US dollars, by the way, in the domestic box office. So it's currently sitting at 222. This film cost less to make than Jungle Cruise. I just want that fact to be known. They spent more money. They spent more money making Jungle Cruise than they did making June. And this was considered not the sure thing. Jungle Cruise was considered a hit before it came out. It wasn't. This is doing very, very well, and I know for a fact that they have not started making the sequel. They were going to wait to see what the box office was like before they begin production. And I have heard rumblings from sources that I'm not going to name that they have basically greenlit this production. All it needs to make is about another 100 million right now. And the important thing to mention is that it's making these incredible numbers despite already having a distribution deal on HBO Max.
Right, so right. This isn't just the box office.
This film is successful in its own right, but also loads of people are watching it on HBO Max. So it's very important to know that like the next one is not going to be on HBO Max. I'm telling you right now, there's no way Denis Villeneuve and Warner Brothers are going to pass up a proper hit. So hell yeah, go see June. Go see awesome. June on an IMAX.
Awesome. Well,
you have to see it on an IMAX.
Like I said, I've already bought tickets, so it is already locked in. It is a plan.
Sweet. All right. I'm gonna turn myself off here. Just send me a text when you guys are done talking about Midnight Mass. I know. I didn't finish it, damn it. I didn't get enough time. All right.
Did you at least get to episode 5, Ivan?
No.
Okay, then. Get out of here.
Yeah. All right. Yep. Just text me when you're ready. All right, go ahead.
All right. Okay. Is he gone?
I mean, where the hell do we start with it?
You know what? I'm gonna start with. We're doing spoilers, so it doesn't matter. I'm gonna start with the titular Midnight Mass itself. Holy crap!
My God.
Good Lord. Like, that was, honestly to God, one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever watched.
Well, you know what, something, and this is a weird thing when I watched it, obviously it's brilliant. When I was trying to articulate it online, and like through Twitter and all that stuff, I realized how many, oh my God, Jesus Christ kind of words that I used to describe stuff, and I felt weird using those words after watching this. That's how much this story got to me.
That's fair. That is completely fair.
Like, that's something that I noticed, and I don't know if anyone else has gone through that. I don't know if I'm completely alone in this, but I felt weird invoking religious terms to talk about this. It felt wrong.
No, I totally get that, especially because, and tell me what you guys think of this, but I'm not Catholic. I'm not former Catholic or anything like that. However, I know people who are Catholic. And this film, or not this film, what am I even saying? This show understands religion in a way I would say 99.9% of horror, nay, 99% of media does not understand religion. But that show understands religion, and that's why I know there's the whole meme about the monologues and, in a Flanagan production and people talking on and on. But people talk because it's just about why people do the things they do and how someone could be manipulated into supporting such an atrocity that unfolds, over that island, and how people get led into that kind of thinking. It is legitimately chilling.
I mean, we mentioned it. We mentioned episode 5. I'm in our group chat. That's the episode that really, really turns the show. It's all great, but episode 5 is it turns the show from a really good show to a great show. And what was I saying? Yes, that's the moment where Beverly Keane, Riley has been turned, and him and Father Paul are doing that whole conversation, and he doesn't quite believe it yet, and all that stuff, and he jokingly says something blasphemous towards Beverly. Is that in Genesis? And she goes, actually, no, it's in Revelations, and then spouts scripture at him about how I will give you my blood and all this stuff, and you go, oh, I get it. I completely understand how this could happen.
Yep.
In half a conversation, it's turned.
Yep, exactly. It's just, you understand why someone could be led down that path and why they would support it. And I also, I don't like harping on criticism that it misses the point, because that's not productive literacy. But in this particular case, I'm going to call something out, and I don't want to say the writer or the outlet, but I saw someone talking about how religion, a Midnight Mass made me feel betrayed by religion, because the priest character, Father Paul, he comes back around and he sort of realizes the horror of what has unfolded and why this isn't okay. And I'm going to say that if you felt betrayed by that, I feel like you missed the entire point of the show. I don't know. Do you guys feel differently? But that's kind of the way I felt about it. It had to be him to understand how far things had gone, or otherwise the entire premise doesn't work.
Mike, what do you think? We've been talking for ages.
And I am a religious person now. I don't practice. I don't go to church, but I was raised Roman Catholic, and I am a spiritual person in that regard. And at no point during that final scene did I feel like, betrayed by religion, as you put it. I agree. If you felt that way, you're kind of missing the point of the whole thing. But it really is masterful, the understanding that this movie has of religion, and not just that, but understanding the dynamic of how people can give religion so much power over them.
Yes.
And how listening to the words of one man could have so much power over them. In fact, in that last episode, during the Midnight Mass, I'm sure it crossed both of your minds too. They heavily lean into some themes with what happened in Jonestown during that.
Totally.
Well, they lean into that pretty heavily.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they definitely drunk the Kool-Aid. There's no point even being subtle about it. That in Fireface, someone's drinking the Kool-Aid. Like, I reckon a lot of people say that phrase and they don't really know what happened.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, hell yeah. I mean, I was brought up in Church of England, which is way less radical than the Catholic Church. It's way more chill and nice, which is, it's good. And I was in a church choir for many, many years. And so I've heard the preaching and scripture, and I've sung the music that has been inspired by people's love of religion. And it's why while I am an atheist, but that I am still very, very respectful of the art and culture that has sprouted up from people's devotion to a god. And what really struck me is, yeah, cool. Then I've never thought of it this way. It's the Unbreakable situation. If somebody can be inspired to write great works of literature because of something, then another person is going to be inspired to do the exact opposite. There has to be balance in just about everything that you do, and this show really hit the nail on the head of that. Like, what if people did all these amazing things, and they were convinced that everything they're doing were amazing, but if they took one step outside, they would be horrified at the actions that they're doing.
Exactly.
And because it's such an island community, it's so difficult to like see everything from outside. It takes an outsider. And Raoul Coley, stand up, Raoul Coley.
Oh, magnificent performance! Magnificent.
Yes.
From may I remind you, an Englishman.
Oh yeah, that's right. I actually forgot about that, but you are correct.
He is from Liverpool, sir. It makes zero sense. And I've been talking about him for years as a potential new James Bond, and I'm dead serious about this. If you liked him in this, go watch iZombie. He's in 5 series of iZombie. He's brilliant in it.
Yeah, it was a great performance. He was great in Haunting of Bly Manor, and he was great in this.
Mm-hmm. For those who don't know, Raoul Coley plays the Sheriff Hassan.
Yep, exactly. And also, another thing I want to say, this is more broad strokes, so this isn't spoilers per se, but it's worth repeating. Magnificent art direction and cinematography on this, especially in the early episodes, which, by the way, it's wild that the early couple of episodes are slow compared to what happens later on. But anyways, like that walk on the beach in episode 1, or the eyes out on the island, with all the stray cats that a couple of the youths essentially see. Just magnificent tension building.
Remember when there were loads of dead cats, and that was the most important thing that happened in the show? Remember the halcyon days of episode 2?
Yeah, jeez.
You want to know what scene from that movie really proved how well the writers understand religion? Is the scene where Riley and Aaron, they're sitting in Aaron's couch sitting in Aaron's house on the couch, and they're discussing basically what happens when you die. And they're each giving their input on it, because from a religious perspective, Roman Catholicism and other religions as well, like, that's one of the core tenets of religion, is what happens when you die. And I thought it was thoughtful for them, in lack of a better word, to kind of go into that and get into that dynamic during that scene.
Absolutely. No, that's a good one. That's many people's favorite scene for very good reasons. But just what a show. What a show. I don't think I've had a show grip me the way that thing did this entire year. It just magnificent vibes.
I mean, I know, and we're critics, and we like to criticize stuff, and
sure.
Some of our most favorite things in the world, we love to say it's great. There's one thing that's wrong with it. I've really been trying to find something, and I can barely find nitpicks with this.
Yeah, I agree with you, James. It is legitimately hard to find anything wrong with Midnight Mass. And honestly,
we all love Resident Evil 8. It's out of us 3. It's probably our favorite game that we played all year. And we will happily tell you that there's large sections of that game that aren't great.
Yeah, or things that gets wrong, or things that other things get wrong, or things in like movies I've watched that this year that I've loved, or games I've played this year that I've loved that have things wrong. But no, I agree with you. I'm trying to think of something in Midnight Mass that I would change or tweak, and I'm coming up empty-handed.
The last show that I could honestly say gripped me like this, and that I felt this way about, like, I honestly have like trouble finding something wrong with it, was probably Chernobyl. Was the last show that made me feel like that.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Chernobyl's a good shout.
But even then, you could say that there might be just a bit too much talking in, like, and there's that whole backstory segment where they're killing animals for like half an episode.
Yeah, even then, you could probably say that.
Right.
But
Yeah,
this,
no,
there's no fat on it.
no, it's lean. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's not too stretched out. It doesn't prolong itself too far. It's just, and the rewatch bonus is like, good lord, that's the thing is, I'm not gonna rewatch it anytime soon because I need to, recover in that way, and also I'm busy. But eventually, I'm gonna rewatch it, and I know there are going to be things in the earlier episodes that's gonna be like, okay, that was totally foreshadowing. That was totally already setting this up later on for the finale.
Did you guys see all the different Mike Flanagan Easter eggs that are dotted around?
I saw a couple of them. I didn't see a ton though, so I'm guessing not.
So in the rec center, on the stage at the back, is the mirror from Oculus,
Oh, okay.
and also Rose's hat from Doctor Sleep. It's in Erin's house. It's
Oh,
just
I
there.
totally missed that. That's good.
Yeah, I missed that.
Yeah, someone had to tell me, and I'm not. The thing is, I'm sure I think they might have photoshopped that. Even if they didn't, it's brilliant. But the big one that a lot of people have noticed this. In 3 or 4 different Mike Flanagan projects, the Book of Midnight Mass is here. Is there, and may I say, Midnight Mass is not based on the book. It's completely original from Flanagan and his writing team. But in Hush, which I don't know, have you guys seen Hush?
Hush, I have seen Hush. That was one of my Spooktober picks last year, I believe. Great film.
Yeah, Hush is great. Do you know the main character in Hush? Do you remember what she does for a living?
She's a writer, right?
Yes. Do you know what book she wrote?
Oh no.
She wrote Midnight Mass.
Amazing. Okay, I didn't catch that.
On the shelf in Gerald's game, do you know what book is there?
Midnight Mass.
Do you know what book that the main character is reading in Bly Manor?
Midnight Mass. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're saying is he's been working towards this one for a long time.
Oh yeah, this has been a 10-year plus project.
Honestly, hats off, because it paid off in spades. And also, if you're okay with it, I'm just going to message Ivan that we're probably wrapping up, if that's okay with y'all.
Let's do that. So let's find it. What is, everyone here, let's go around. Mike, you go first. What is the defining moment of this series to you?
Mike?
Here's his message. His computer has crapped out and rebooted itself, hopping back in momentarily. In the meantime, Sam, what is the defining moment of the series to you?
There's a ton of great moments. The defining moment to me, though, James, has to be the titular Midnight Mass itself. It is it's what the entire thing is building towards. Even after that, I would say the show is tense, but it is not as tense. But what happens in that scene and what happens in that room and what these people are driven to is terrifying. Because like I said, I'm not Roman Catholic or former Roman Catholic, but I am religious. And so knowing that there are people who I might have talked to or I might have met who would have done that, who would have gone along with that, who would have fed into that, that is terrifying. It is legitimately just gripping. And again, that scene is what the show is building towards. Everything after that, while it is still very intense, is the aftershock. That scene is the show, as far as I'm concerned.
Mike, by chance, are you back? Oh, he's in the chat.
Yep.
But I don't know if I can hear him.
I can't hear him.
I'm back. Can you hear me okay?
There
we go.
Oh, he asked me
nothing.
what my favorite moment was, and I said it was the titular Midnight Mass itself.
Mike, do you have a defining moment of the show to you?
It's like I said, for me, it was the conversation that that they were having about death and what happens when you die, because I think that links back so well to one of what the core principles and core tenets of religion in general is that conversation. Okay, when you die, what happens? And I thought they opened that box and discussed that topic really well.
we've all picked different things. That's good. For me, it is if I could pick the entirety of episode 5, I would. But I will narrow it down to Hamish Linklater, who we haven't said enough about. Hamish Linklater as Father Paul. Straight up, one of the 5 best performances in television history. I've been trying to find better ones, and there's him, Stringer Bell, Walter White, Tony Soprano, and then maybe one other. But for every single moment on screen is not wasted when Hamish Linklater is on it.
Bold words, but I can't disagree.
It is Father Paul and Riley, their conversation together. That is cinematic brilliance. There is a lot of people think there's an old saying that the most cinematic thing that can be is 2 people talking in a room. A lot of times you can make it feel like a play, and that's good. Sometimes you want people to be engrossed. Sometimes it can alienate people. But when Riley and Father Paul are telling each other, let's be honest with each other and let's talk, and you can see Father Paul finally get some anger in him, get some blood rushing through his veins, for lack of a better term. When the fire came, you see this means something, and that for me, it just, boy, thinking about it just now gets me going. God, I so wish I could remove all of this and watch it again for the first time on Halloween.
No, I agree with you. This is one of those rare things. Like, there's only 2 other things I'd put in that category where I wish I could wipe it from my brain just to experience it all over again. I'm with you there.
I desperately hope that the voting bodies for the television awards, for the Emmys, for the Golden Globes, and the BAFTAs don't overlook this because they think it's a horror show. I am praying. There's that religious wording again. I don't pray, but I just said it. I am praying that awards bodies please look at this as a drama, because it is. There is one horror element to it, a single horror element to it. Everything else is just a really intense drama. Please vote for this, because there is no chance that there's going to be a better miniseries that coming out in the next 6 to 10 months.
Yeah, I agree. Ivan, are you back? Ivan?
Did you send him a text like you said you would?
I did, yes.
We can wrap up the show without him. It's fine.
Yep. All right. I just sent him another one just to make absolutely sure. But, yeah. Anyone got any fun Halloween plans? Let me ask that.
Nope, no cool plans for me yet. Yep, I had to make sure it was safe. So, yeah, no cool plans for me.
Halloween plans. I do. I'm going to go see The Woman in Black live on stage.
Nice. Have fun with that.
Oh, nice.
It was a stage play before it was made into a bad film starring Daniel Radcliffe.
Great.
There we go.
What about you, Mike? Got anything going on?
Halloween is when we do our annual rewatch of The Witch, which is fantastic. As I keep saying on here, that is our annual rewatch of The Witch. And actually, the day after Dia de los Muertos, there's this really cool Tex-Mex restaurant by us called Mad Mex, and it's a fun environment there. Like, everybody gets dressed up and like the face paint and everything, and they have it all decorated for it. Like, it's a super fun environment. So that's what we typically do the next day.
Nice. That's fun.
Wait, I might just watch more Hammer movies.
Not a bad plan.
Anything for you, Sam? You got anything going on?
I'm trying to arrange something, but it's not looking good so far. Honestly, if I end up liking it, I might just go back and see Dune again a second time.
Hey,
that's not impossible.
Fair enough.
I hope you like bagpipes.
Oh, there's a lot of bagpipes in this. Oh my god, it's a lot of bagpipes. You're watching, you're like, what? No. I bet it's the equivalent of like a caveman watching like someone now using drums. Like, you appropriated my culture. How dare you? You don't even know why. Anyway, yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. Where can the good people find you, sir? Let's start with James. Where can the people find you?
The good people and the bad people and everyone in between can find me on Twitter at James_S Wilson. You can find me on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. British Standard Time on Radio Harrow for our weekly show just about news, and Fridays at 7 p.m. For Culture Corner, my film review show.
Excellent. Sam?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert. That's TOLBERT, and I'm still writing up a storm over on Windows Central and its sister sites.
All right, Mike.
You can find me on Twitter at The Truth of Mike P, Xbox at Mike P The Truth, and you can check out what I write on Level 1 Gaming at lv1gaming.com.
All right, and you guys can find me at Anchor V2. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, thanks for everyone just stopping by and having a good time. All right, we are out of here. Thank you very much for stepping out and enjoying Multiverse Mondays, and have a good. All right, we're clear.